welcome to another edition of the Wasting All the Time Open Access Interview Series. I'm John, and with me today is Mr. Rodderick Bodkins.
Yeah, you can call me Roddy.
Oh, thank you. Roddy. He is a kind of a local celebrity here. Local actor, made good.
Don't forget writer and producer.
Writer and producer as well, yeah.
That's very important.
Mostly known for his film appearances in
Blackjack 2, Death of Blackjack.
Yeah.
That was a popular one. Blackjack 3, Return of the Death of Blackjack, had a little bit more pathos to it.
It was very postmodern, yeah.
Yeah, people liked it. Like, smart people liked it, you know? Mm-hmm. If you didn't like it, maybe you were a bit dumb, I don't know. You didn't get it.
We do have a pretty enlightened listenership, I like to think.
Yeah.
So I'm sure our audience was right in step with it. So today we're having you on because I understand that you are planning a pretty ambitious project for the region here.
Yeah, I guess I can talk about it. It's a festival.
Right.
But it's for smart people. Mm-hmm. It's a Shakespeare festival.
Shakespeare festival, very exciting.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of excellent talent there. Mm-hmm. So I'm really excited to bring a little more culture to this area, you know?
Now I understand that it will be a one-man Shakespeare festival. The productions will be one-man productions starring you, yes?
Yeah, that is correct.
Awesome.
So I said, see how I did a lot of talent there?
Right, I saw that, yeah.
Because it was me.
Just wanted to clarify for the listenership. So before we get too far into that, I'd love to talk to you about some of your background, what makes you tick, that kind of thing. So tell me, have you always wanted to be an actor?
Well, that's an interesting question. I like to think that I've always been an actor. You can't really want to be what you are, you know?
Right. Well, I ask because I Googled you real quick as interview prep, and I noticed that you originally majored in veterinary science.
Yeah. The drama programs were a little bit competitive.
Okay.
And so I used my genius level IQ to acquire some, I guess you could call it, education to kind of get me through while I really found my artistic center. And you don't really know what art is until you're forearm deep in a dog's stomach.
Oh, wow.
And then it hits you. At least it hit me. Like I said, I'm really smart, so the enlightenment was pretty easy to grasp.
So you were actually a practicing vet for a while then?
Yeah, for a while, like I said. Did I mention the genius?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I got the degree. I started working on these animals, and it didn't speak to my soul, you know?
Oh, I see.
It doesn't... I couldn't express myself. When you're operating on a cat, or when some kind of horse has some kind of broken thing on it, you just do what's right.
I see, yeah.
When you make art like I do, like true art like I do, not a lot of fake art like some of these guys do. No, true art is what reveals the soul. And so stitching together broken animals and removing hernias and putting down, I don't know, I think a platypus one time, that just doesn't do it. That's not art. That's not life.
I see. So saving lives is not life to you then?
Yeah. You know what? That's pretty good. I like that. I want to write the saving lives. So I'm going to use that for another project. Okay. I hope you don't mind. No, yeah.
That's okay.
It was think about it like this. If something's broken and you put it back together, you haven't changed anything.
I guess not. No?
But if something is put together and you break it, you've changed the world.
True. So you're all about that disrupting norms kind of thing.
You could put it that way, yeah. If it helps you understand it, sure.
Okay. Well, yeah, and so you worked as a vet for a couple of years.
Something like that.
But then you got your first big break working for the Stare Dog Theater Company.
Good old Stare Dog.
Yeah.
There were some good people back there.
Now, you were a founding member of that organization, were you not?
That is correct. By the time I had made, I don't know, I can't remember the amount of monies I made with a vet, but it was enough to basically buy this theater company and all the people that worked in it.
Oh, wow.
And so I rebranded it as Stare Dog.
Okay, so it was pre-existing. You rebranded it, and the new organization, you were a founding member.
Yeah, remember how I talked about breaking things and putting them together?
Right.
I took the old theater company and broke it into something new.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And so that new thing I founded.
I see. Yeah, and many of the other members of that particular troupe have gone on to do some great things in their careers. But I want to zoom in on just one particular relationship you had at that company, and that was the one with Llewellyn Desmond. You guys played opposite each other in several productions and always seemed to have this fantastic rapport. Do you still work with him at all?
It's funny that you bring up Llewellyn there, friendo. He and I were like two sides of the same car. One part does a lot of the work and like makes the pieces go together. And then the other part hides that part and looks fancy and doesn't do much.
Okay.
That's how close we were.
Yeah.
We on stage, everyone seemed to think that we had this camaraderie. But it was more than that.
Okay.
Imagine if you will, you have a brother, but he's not your brother. He's more like a cellmate.
Okay.
But he's also your brother.
Okay.
So like that.
So like if you were sent to a boarding school with your brother.
I mean, if it helps you understand it that way, sure, but that's not what I was getting at.
Okay.
More like
if you were trapped with your brother.
Yeah. See, now you're starting to get it. It's tough to put it into words that you can understand because it's so complicated and complex in my mind that expressing it in, I guess, human language is a little bit more difficult.
Human language as opposed to...
Like thought, because thought isn't language. That's why we have art.
I see the distinction now. Okay.
Art is the bridge between thought and language, and it takes, a genius, not only a genius level intellect like I have, but an appreciation for the soul. The soul sees the thought, the genius sees the art, and then you have the bridge.
Awesome. Okay, but anyway, the question was, do you still work with Llewellyn at all? Is he going to be involved in this Shakespeare festival of yours?
Llewellyn and I had, I guess you could call it, a parting of ways.
Oh, okay. That's too bad.
It is unfortunate when you find someone like Llewellyn who really appreciates your own genius, who really helps you shine. When your genius comes through, he could appreciate my art. And then he moved to Antarctica. I'll never know why.
Interesting.
Yeah, occasionally I get letters from him praising my genius that I like to show my fans and put on my website and blog, but no one else has seen him. They just see his letters telling the world about my genius.
I see. And Antarctica.
Yeah. I think he went to do, what do you call it? Soul searching.
Soul searching.
And that's, you can't get in the way of a person's soul searching.
Right.
When someone as appreciative as Llewellyn wants to look inside himself, you got to take a step back and go, this man knows art. He needs to find more art in his soul.
I see.
And what better place to do that than the coldest place on earth?
I'm not going to argue with you on that one because I'm not sure there would be a purpose.
See, you get it. All right.
Yeah. And so after you and Llewellyn parted ways, you also decided to part ways with the Stare Dog theater company and move into film, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's when we got into the Blackjack franchise.
The Blackjack franchise, yeah. Stare Dog was a great I don't want to say stepping stone, but they were a great thing to step on as I moved forward. It's like, imagine you're swimming in the sea and you've got those arm floaties and the kick flippies. And for a while, they help you swim. Because without arm floaties and kick flippies, you're going to sink.
Well, I mean, a human body
stone.
full of air will actually usually float. You just have to not panic.
Does art make you not panic? There you go. See, now you think about that, and you can start. That is your first step on your journey to understanding art.
Okay.
So while you're swimming with your arm floaties and your kick flippies, first they help you. But then you start, imagine you're swimming in the ocean and you're the soul of a dolphin.
Soul of a dolphin.
Dolphins
okay.
don't need arm floaties or kick flippies. So after a while, they hold you back. They trap you in your human form when really you're the soul of a dolphin.
Soul of a dolphin.
And so you have to set aside the arm floaties and the kick flippies and swim.
Like a dolphin.
Like the soul of a dolphin.
Like
you were so close.
Sorry.
I believed in you.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Okay. But anyway,
strong.
the Blackjack franchise.
Yes. Blackjack, and then Blackjack 2, Death of Blackjack, and then Blackjack 3, Return of the Death of Blackjack.
Right.
Really, I guess you could say it cemented my place in the hearts and minds of Americans and citizens the world around. But that wouldn't really be accurate, because that was the vessel for my art to cement itself in their souls.
Now, it's interesting because most people would not speak of an action comedy franchise like Blackjack in quite those sort of terms. I mean, they were critically acclaimed until Blackjack 4, Revenge of the Death of the Return of the Death of Blackjack, which I believe Roger Ebert came back from the dead to critically pan that. But, they were generally well liked. But, in kind of the buddy cop genre. And so it's interesting to hear you wax so poetic about them.
Yeah. So imagine that a film is either a cake or an onion.
Okay.
There's layers, right?
They do both have layers, yes.
Yes.
Well, depending on the cake.
You're getting it.
Some cakes are just a solid cake with frosting on top.
And there's your layers. See, you were right, and you didn't even know it.
Hey, there we go.
That's how inspiring I am to people like you. It's great. That's why I love these things. So, layers. People, critics, most of them saw, like you so affectionately termed, the buddy cop. And that spoke to them on what Freud calls the id.
Okay, so that primal sort of primitive part of the human personality.
Yeah. They saw that and they went, I'm happy. Why am I happy? I don't care. The id says I'm happy. So I can reach past people's consciousnesses and bring them joy.
I see.
That's that first layer. Now
that's just the first layer.
That's just the first layer.
Okay.
See, it's like a mine. Imagine a mine shaft that
Okay.
goes all the way down.
All the way down.
You're in the golf cart sitting at the entrance right now, and I
Okay.
just turned on the lights for you.
Oh, okay.
So here we go. Hold on to your beanie, because this is a ride.
I am holding on to my beanie.
First layer, the buddy cop, the id, remember?
Right.
The second layer, it starts to reach in to not just the unconscious, but the semi-unconscious, the mind that is both partially aware of itself and also partially aware of the world.
See.
So as people watch the film, their semi-unconscious starts to merge the idea. Now, buddy cop, what is the most common element in a buddy cop movie?
Two cops that have a friendship.
Friendship. Exactly. So the semi-unconscious mind takes this friendship and says,
Okay.
I am friends with the world.
Okay.
Right? So again, not only am I reaching past the conscious to bring joy, I am literally creating friends around the world.
Well, that's a very noble way of looking at it.
It is. It really is.
Well, we do need to take a quick break right now to hear from our sponsors, but we will be back with more open access interview series after this message.
The Open Access Interview Series is brought to you by the Doe Brothers Tunneling Company. The Doe brothers, John and John, have recently gotten into the tunneling business and found that they really have a knack for it. Whether it's a tunnel out of a government institution or a tunnel into success, all depends on your perspective. Right now there's a special 30% off any tunnels dug near a bank. The Doe Brothers Tunneling Company. Shovels are welcome, but honestly, they'll get by with whatever. And now, back to the Open Access Interview Series with John Hansen and his guest.
Okay, thanks for sticking with us. This is the Wasting All the Time Open Access Interview Series. I'm John, and my guest today is Mr. Roddy Bodkins. If you're just joining us, he is a local actor who has done very well for himself and is returning to the area to put on a Shakespeare festival, a one-man Shakespeare festival. And this segment, I'd really like to drill down into that a little bit more. So these are one-man productions.
Yep.
And what all Shakespeare plays are you doing? I understand it's the complete works of William Shakespeare.
Yeah. There are a few, if I were to do the entire top to bottom, front to back, A to Z, Shakespeare, people would be probably overly inundated with just the pure amount of acting and talent coming at them. So there are a few...
Shakespeare is quite dense, yes.
It is. And it takes someone truly involved. It's someone truly, I guess, touched by art to bring it to life as a one-man production. Of course, I'm that guy. But bringing it to people who are not at the same level requires some adaptations.
Right. Now, why Shakespeare in particular?
Well, I like to think of Shakespeare as a part of myself.
Okay. So do you have a history with Shakespeare? Have you always been a fan? Is it something you recently discovered?
Well, I grew up with, like I said, I've always been an actor, so I grew up around most of the great art, around art that was great up until me.
I see.
And so, being a not quite precocious child on the playground, I was more involved in expressing the bard's lines than things like baseball or softball or highlight and all that. So when you're a young prodigy trying to recite Midsummer Night's Dream on the playground backwards in German, a lot of the other kids maybe don't see what's so great.
Yeah, so there was a bullying aspect then.
Yeah, you could say that. A lot of it was probably jealousy.
Okay.
I think even at an early age, children are able to recognize, I guess genius is still the best word for it, that kind of step above.
I see.
So that probably, honestly, may have been one of the things that really propelled me, was that these ruffians, these youth who are not exposed to the world at large, could see and appreciate what I had.
I see. And so this is sort of your vindication of that, presenting these complete works of Shakespeare in this theater festival in your hometown to kind of show these kids, like, this is, who are adults now, presumably. This is what all that was about. This is what it was building to, and here you go.
That is a large portion of it, yeah. Imagine you're a caveman shaking his fist at the sky as it rains. The caveman has no understanding of the rain, and the rain has no care for the impetus of the caveman. Okay? So you have these two opposed forces. in this scenario, I am the earth.
Okay, so you're neither the rain nor the cave. They're not even a part of this.
I mean, you know what? Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay.
The rain is part of the earth and the caveman's on the earth.
I
guess
see.
I
So you're the
overcomplicated.
earth and you're causing the rain that the caveman doesn't understand.
You know what? Yeah, let's go with that.
Okay.
If that helps you understand it, then I've done my job
Well,
again.
if I'm not understanding it, please feel free to explain more fully.
I sometimes get carried away in the metaphors. Remember the thought to language?
Right.
That bridge. Sometimes on the fly like this, the bridge breaks down because the thought is too, I don't know, pure is not quite the right word.
Heavy?
Heavy is getting a little further away, but I like where your head's at.
Okay.
But yes, this is my lightning bolt. This is the lightning bolt
I see.
striking the town, showing it. This
So there's a
is
town now.
the town that the festival is in. The lightning bolt strikes the town.
The town rather than the caveman.
Yeah, we've moved on.
Oh, okay.
The town is illuminated with the lightning bolt, which is the festival,
Okay.
right?
Fantastic.
Remember, you saw Blackjack, the first
Right.
Blackjack, and he had the 45, a Magnum,
Yeah.
and how he shot the corrupt. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Blackjack 1.
It is like a 5-year-old movie.
Yeah,
You probably
it's-
should have seen it by now.
It has aged extremely well if you haven't. He shoots the bad guy right in the head. Remember that? And there's the slow motion. Yeah.
Yeah, the corrupt senator. Yeah.
Yes. See, yeah, you're on that second level. I like it. And the bullet goes through his head similarly to the way a lightning bolt goes through the earth.
Okay.
Thusly am I reaching out to the town with my light of Shakespeare.
Okay. That's really cool. So bringing this back to the locals as sort of a method of vindication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that kind of explains why Shakespeare. I also wanted to go into doing this, the complete works of William Shakespeare. That's an undertaking all on its own. But to go into that as purely a one-man project, that is, dare I say, Herculean, to take that much on. Now, why do that? Why not get some of the folks from the Stare Dog company or some of your co-stars from the Blackjack movies, to kind of come in and round out these casts? Why put that burden all on your own shoulders?
It's funny you mention the phrase Herculean.
Okay.
You're where Hercules had his labors. He had his things he was tasked to do by the gods. And I have things that I am tasked to do by art. There is a character named Ryuhoshi.
Okay.
Ryuhoshi is one of the greatest warriors that the world has ever seen.
Okay.
And all Ryu does is travel the world, searching for that one opponent that can challenge him. Because without an opponent, what is one's greatness?
Right. And now, to be clear, this is the character from the Street Fighter video game franchise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Art lurks in. There's a quote on the back of one of my DVDs. Art lurks in all corners of the world.
Oh, right. This is your acting seminar
Yes.
DVD. Yeah.
Yes. Getting Roddy with Roddy.
Right.
Yes. Art lurks in all corners of the world. And so, when you find inspiration, as in Ryu-san, you must take it into yourself. So, as Ryu searches the world for his one opponent, so too have I searched the world for art great enough to challenge my soul.
I see. And
Yes.
so and the complete works of William Shakespeare are your one great opponent.
They are a step towards it, yes.
Oh, so that's not even this isn't even your final form.
Correct. Yes, exactly. See, you're understanding. There are many forms that art in the soul takes. And as the phoenix emerges from the cocoon, so too must art emerge from the body.
Fantastic.
And in this case, Shakespeare, remember I talked about stepping stones earlier?
Right.
This is one of those stones.
I see.
And as the stone does not weigh you down, so too do you step on it and lift yourself up.
Okay.
That was me again. I was quoting me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember that from the DVD. Yeah. So now you did mention near the top of this segment something about adaptation. So are you doing some reworking of these plays, like little cuts here and there, little? I know sometimes people will rearrange certain scenes to improve the dramatic flow. What kind of stuff of that nature are you doing?
It's funny you mention other people doing these redirections, and I kind of liken that to my time back at doing veterinary surgery. If you were to give a cat a scalpel to operate on a horse,
Right.
it wouldn't end up well, would it?
Probably not.
Similarly,
That would have to be a very intelligent and talented cat.
It would. It would. Similarly, some of these other actors and people who rearrange Shakespeare are more akin to a cat with a scalpel.
Okay.
They can cut things and they can do things, but perhaps the greater picture escapes them. I am the surgeon in both real life and the metaphor. So, as I rearrange Shakespeare, I am doing not only art in Shakespeare, but a surgical art of the words themselves.
Wait. So are you saying that you're changing the actual words in these plays?
I'm changing the thoughts, which must inherently change the language. Remember the bridge?
Wait, you're changing the thoughts in the plays as well?
Yes, because I can see the art of Shakespeare. And
Okay, but wait. So you're taking the works of Shakespeare,
yes,
you're changing the motivations behind them, and you're changing the language,
yes,
and you're still calling it Shakespeare.
yes. So imagine you
Okay.
have a broken mirror.
All right?
You
Broken
can
mirror.
see all the pieces, and you can see where they would fit together.
Right.
If you put it back together, it's still a mirror, right?
Yes, although a cracked one.
And so, as it is a mirror, so are the pieces of Shakespeare that I have corrected to make true Shakespeare.
Okay, so you've broken Shakespeare, you've taken the pieces, and you've turned them into other pieces and then put them back together?
I think you're starting to approach understanding, but imagine you're like a puppy dog at the bottom of a cliff. You can see how high the cliff is, but maybe you don't know what's at the top of it. But you're doing your best, and I appreciate that.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we need to take one more break. We'll be back right after this message from our sponsors, and I want to hear more about this concept when we come back. So, listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Do you like art? Do you like music? Do you like podcasts? Those are three distinct different things. Do you know somebody who likes to do those things? Maybe you could help them out. Maybe you could give them some of your money. I know, we'll fold up a couple dollar bills and stick it in the mail. Uh-oh, somebody went through your mailbox and stole your outgoing mail. Well, don't let that happen to you when you want to support art, music, or, distinctly, podcasts. Find out if your creator is on Patreon. Patreon is a fun and interesting way in the modern world for you to support the people who create things, people who you like, people who you want to support in the aforementioned financial way. Creators on Patreon set up different ways for people to give, and then those people can come and give money to you, the creator. You see how I switched it on you? Oh, and remember that guy who stole the mail? He's not in the picture here. Patreon tells you up front that they're going to steal 15% or so of what the people give you. And that's okay because you agreed to it to begin with. And that's the service they provide. So why don't you try Patreon sometime? Find out some people who are on there who you like. I don't know, maybe like wasting all the time a podcast? Go to www.patreon.com/timewastepod to find out more about that. Patreon is proud to support the Open Access interview series. Or they would if they knew about it.
Hi, and welcome back to this edition of the Open Access interview series. My name is John, and I'm with local actor done good, Roddy Bodkins.
Howdy.
And we're discussing his Shakespeare Festival, which...
Remember the lightning bolt?
Yeah, in the last segment, where there was stuff about a lightning bolt, but we also, and this is what I really want to get into, we heard from you that this is not actually going to be Shakespeare, really. You know, that you've reworked the plots and the lines.
And the thoughts behind them,
and
remember?
And the motivations.
Remember the mine shaft?
Yeah, the mine shaft, yeah. Oh, was that Mind Shaft?
No, I think that's a bit too on the nose.
Okay.
But I like where your head's at.
Okay. But, yeah, so I just want to get a little bit more into the details of this. Like, how do you change the plots, the motivations, and the lines and still call it Shakespeare? You know, for example, like, what is your Merchant of Venice like?
Oh, excellent. I'm really glad you brought that one up. That's one of my... It's one of my little pet favorites, you know?
Right. So as some of our audience may not know, the original play is about a merchant in Venice, Antonio, who signs a contract with a Jewish moneylender named Shylock. The collateral is a pound of his flesh because it's a sure thing. It's just kind of meant as a jokey thing between him and Shylock. But then his ships don't come in, and he suddenly is on the hook for this pound of flesh, and it all cascades from there.
Right.
And so how have you adapted that for your one-man production?
So Shylock and Antonio represent two parts of a duality.
Okay.
And that duality is incessantly in conflict, except when it isn't.
Okay.
So look at the beginning. Is there conflict yet? No. The conflict must arise within duality of two parts.
Okay.
And so, as the one on stage, I must be a duality within myself.
Right.
And so, instead of Antonio signing a contract, which is clearly just a metaphor that Shakespeare was using so that more normal people could access the message.
Okay. It seems pretty literal in the play, but I'll go with you on this.
Right, and I understand that's how people perceive it. So normal people normally perceive.
Shakespearean scholars also
normal
interpret
people.
it that way.
Yeah, so the contract as a metaphor for a temporary cessation of hostilities of the dualities within one.
Okay, but it's not a cessation of hostilities, it's a business deal. He's loaning him money until his ships come in.
And what is money but the root of all evil? You see?
Okay.
And so this duality is going to be represented on stage by myself wearing one half of a British naval officer's uniform and one half of a Mongolian warrior on the steppes.
Okay.
Right?
Right. British naval officer of what era?
I'm thinking, now this one is a little bit more flexible because it's kind of my fun one, but I'm thinking pre-1800s, but not so far back as to be obnoxious.
Okay. Meanwhile, the
Mongolian warrior on the steppes, yes.
Yeah, the height of their power was in the PCs sometime?
Something like that. Numbers cease having meaning at a certain point like this, and so I don't generally hold on to them.
Okay.
It's the height of power is the important part. So
I see.
So you can see which
So you're blending these eras, basically.
in a duality. Yes, yes. And so this duality between Antonio and Shylock must be represented as a duality between the British naval officer and the Mongolian warrior.
Okay. And so that's just a costume choice, though. Antonio and Shylock are not literally presented as a British naval officer and a Mongolian warrior.
No, that would be far too pedantic. I wouldn't stoop to such insults to my audience.
Okay, so it is still basically an Italian merchant and a Jewish moneylender.
They do have to transcend their nationality.
Okay.
Because as Shakespeare could not have been aware of the global community in which we now exist,
Right.
so too must the thoughts of his characters be brought forward into the world.
Right.
So, instead of them being a nationality of Earth, they are a race beyond nationality.
Okay. So, aliens?
You're half right. One of them is an alien and one is an astronaut. See, it transcends nationality.
And you've rewritten the language of the play to account for this?
I have reimagined the thought behind it, which necessarily necessitates some changing of the language. Remember the bridge. If the thought is different, so too must the bridge be different, so too reach art.
Okay. Now, I do want to get into, during the break, I pulled up a list of the plays that you're planning on producing.
Yes.
And I noticed that even though it's listed as the complete works of Shakespeare, there's several that are not present.
Yes.
Richard II isn't on here anywhere. Neither are several of the comedies. Two Gentlemen of Verona, that's actually a fairly well-known one.
Yeah, a lot of people think they get that one. And so imagine you're a school child and you're trying to correct a professor.
Okay.
The school child thinks they know something fairly well. But how often is that school child going to correct a professor? Not very often.
Not very often.
And so to remove that conflict from the world of art, so too have I chosen to remove Verona from this production so that more people will be able to understand more without being lost in their school child self.
So you've removed a part of the Shakespearean canon because you think people won't understand it?
Remember the mirror and the broken pieces?
Yeah.
Similar to that. If you break a mirror and you have extra pieces, you can't include those pieces in the mirror now,
Right,
can
but
you?
why would you have extra pieces if it's all from the mirror that you broke?
It's a metaphor. Some things aren't to be taken literally, like it's not an actual mirror.
Right, I just feel
breaking.
like the metaphor maybe breaks down when you start having magic extra pieces that just appear out of nowhere. Like these are plays that Shakespeare wrote. They're not extra pieces of mirror.
Right, that's why it's a metaphor.
Right, but it's a metaphor that doesn't seem to fully explain this situation.
As is the case with any metaphor, it can't truly approach the real situation. It's like a thought exercise. If you were to have extra pieces, could you put them back? No. So too can I not include these because the average person's mind who sees this would not comprehend the extra pieces of the mirror.
Okay.
But you're doing your best, and I really appreciate that.
I also noticed you've retitled some of these.
Yes. Particularly good.
Timon of Athens is now Timon and Pumbaa, like the Lion King characters?
Yes, that was a rather unfortunate coincidence. Sometimes changing the thoughts behind the words also necessitates changing the titles. And so these names did come about 100% organically and is purely a coincidence for the cartoon characters to have the same names. An unfortunate one at best.
Two Dead Teens, I guess that's Romeo and Juliet.
Yes,
now?
yes, yes. Because, again, Shakespeare could not have had any idea that those words would more accurately capture his vision.
And then you have one that's just called torture porn. I guess that's Titus Andronicus.
It is. It is Titus Andronicus. There are a few. There were, how to put this most succinctly? There were necessary changes that arose that this new title more expressed the soul of the creator.
Okay.
Me, in this case.
That also kind of makes sense with Titus Andronicus. I mean, dude bakes people into pies and feeds it to their dad or some shit like that.
Yeah, it's deep. And sometimes people are afraid of depth. Remember the mine shaft?
Right.
Some people don't take that golf cart all the way in.
Right.
And so if they're too afraid, I changed the title, which is like turning a light on in the shaft. It's
right. Yeah.
like in Act 3.
So I feel like maybe we should.
Moving on.
I feel like maybe we should move on from this. And we're running a little short on time. I want to get into where people can, experience this. So you'll be setting up where in
Rockford Park.
Rockford Park.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. We are constructing a small, and by we I mean I, because it is one man,
Right.
constructing a small amphitheater, but it's going to be constructed solely out of old plays. Like the actual paper I'm going to
interesting.
take, and it's the old being born into the new. Remember,
So like kind of making it into paper mache and then forming the proscenium out of that.
yes, yes. Remember the breaking and the old and the new? We are breaking the plays.
I see.
And then we are creating something new instead of putting them back together as they go.
Wow.
Yes.
That's impressive. You were able to get the city to sign off on that.
Yeah, they were trepidatious at first, but I'm absolutely certain that once they have fully comprehended the art, that their signatures will come fast as a thundering herd of stallions.
Wait. So you haven't actually had the city sign off on this yet?
I haven't even bothered to look at the paperwork because I'm so certain that they will approve it that I've already begun construction.
Wait, so this theater festival begins in like a week.
It does.
And you still don't have the permitting for it?
Permits are beneath art at, remember the caveman and the thunder?
Right, but you
Yes.
plan on having a built structure in a public park
Yes.
for a span of 6 weeks, which is how long this festival is going to be on.
Yes.
That's a significant use of public lands.
It is, thank you.
They're not going to just let you set that up without a permit.
You know, I'm really grateful for opinions like these. Remember Ryuhoshi?
Right.
This is one of the many challenges on my way. So
Yeah.
thank you. You have embodied the Ken to my Ryu.
Oh, you're welcome. So this means you'll be going and getting the permits then. This
There-
was a good reminder for you.
Everything is a good reminder for me, and I thank you for being a part of that. Yes, it is a good reminder. It reminds me to bring more art to the world.
I just feel like you're not actually going to go get the permits, and you're going to be very disappointed with how things go as a result.
Well, what can I say? Maybe they will be so astounded by my genius that I will forgive them.
You will forgive them. Okay, well that's about all the time we have today for this episode of the Wasting All the Time Open Access Interview Series. I've been your host, John, and we've been interviewing Mr. Roderick Roddy Bodkins.
That's me.
Local actor and film star who is planning to present a festival of the complete works of Shakespeare staged by one guy in a papier-mâché proscenium without any permits.
Yes.
And different plots for the Shakespeare plays and different language and different characters mostly. So come on out for that. starts in a week,
Yes.
beginning with Richard the 17th.
Yes. Fourth, though my armies march on a sword, and what is a sword but a blade that one's hold in one's own soul, that it may excel to the heavens, and the heavens part, and so rains down upon the soul and the blade, but blood from God himself.
Okay, I don't remember that from any Shakespeare I've ever read, but thanks for that, Roddy.
You're welcome.
And,
it was a sneak preview.
I guess we'll see you on stage.
Yes.
Good night, folks.
If you enjoyed the show, then leave us a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, or anywhere that lets you put in a review. You can call or text the show at area code 916-235-3337. If you'd like to interact with us in any other way, then www.wastingallthetime.com would be a great place to start. There you can submit listener-suggested scenes and questiones, you can buy your own copy of the Fruit Words card game, you can read blog posts from Ted and the guys, and a whole lot more. So check it out at wastingallthetime.com.
And now the town is illuminated. Sorry.
This is so tortured. I love it.
We've moved on. Okay.
Okay.